So Karl sent this modified Beetle with Porsche Cup 2s. I want to say Cup 2s. Beautiful color, great color grade. We've got a cool highlight, beautiful highlight in the side of the car, reflection. Yeah, I like this. I want to see like a bigger scene. Like this looks like a beautiful spot. You've got great colors, great time of day. It looks like a lake here, and I kind of want to see it. Or if we didn't have such a shallow depth of field and we could see kind of like a picturesque reflection in the side, that would be really cool. So that's just a little bit of what I'm thinking. And maybe if the highlights were a little brighter, if the yellows were a little brighter, it would pop more. But yeah, I want to see more of this scene, or I want more of this reflection to be sharp. But if we're looking at like the emphasis on the wheel, this is a good emphasis on the wheel and this fender tucked up under there. So it is a cool shot, and I want to see more. So thank you so much, Karl. Okay, SS Creative sent these. I like the reds. The reds are working on this Lexus. I don't like that the door is open, but it is a headlight shot, and we are focused on the headlight, and the headlight is kind of central, and that's clearly the focal point. So it doesn't bug me. Maybe a polarizer. I'm trying not to give the same note every time. I kind of filtered this time. Circular polarizer might kind of kill some of this highlight in a good way, or refine it so it's a little less like you can see this tree and everything. I like what the highlight does here. Just not crazy about it. This mirror finish there. And then this one, I understand shooting in the shade, but it is still like the middle of the afternoon is the only thing in the shade. And we're also, I mean, it looks like we're standing like 12 feet of the car and just taking a picture. So I'm not crazy about that. The red doesn't pop because it just looks muddy because it is under this tree in the middle of the day, and everything is kind of exposed for the sunlit areas. And then this thing is, I would just like clone that out in like 1 second and cone these out. Okay. And then this one, yeah, this is just overexposed. I'm more befuddled by the background being Noah's Ark than mad about it. I would definitely underexpose this a little bit, polarize, change some of these reflections, and make this windshield a little less whitewashed. I know that 2 versions of this photo were sent, or 2 similar ones, and one of them was underexposed and one of them was overexposed. So something to work on. But thank you so much for sending these. Thomas sent these. And at first I was looking through these and I found like there's something I like about all of them. And I was like, what am I going to say about these? Don't worry, I've got some notes. This is just a little underexposed. The white should be whiter. And if the blacks were even blacker, I mean, again, we're talking about kind of a weird shadow situation, which is what I really like. I like harsh shadows where something is highlighted and then the shadows just turn really dark. It would be so easy to knock back this guy just into the background. You wouldn't even have to. You could probably do it with sliders, but you could definitely do it with cloning. No one would ever know he was there. It would make it a little bit better, but the whites should be whiter. Also, I'm not really sure what's going on with the mirrors. One mirror, is the gas cap open or the charge port? Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. I guess I've never really had to deal with that before. I don't like the charge port being open. I would have just thought it was the mirror, except that this one looks totally different. So, yeah, that's a little weird. This one, and this one, I kind of... What I kind of had an issue with... This one's very blue. That's not it. What I want to see like a little more of this background. It looks like we've got this long kind of road. I don't know if it's at a circuit or something. I kind of want to see like step back a little bit I like the focal length, but maybe step back a little bit, zoom out just a little bit, give us a little more on the right side. And I kind of want to see some context for where this is. And yeah, I could definitely go for warming up this photo. Also, where it's parked, I kind of thought it was a moving shot, but it is an empty car with its lights on. So I don't know what to say about a car that looks like it's driving, but it is static, because I take lots of pictures of static cars all the time. It's probably my preference, but the concern that it looks like it's moving and isn't normally a thing that I have. I do like the red. The paint looks good. I wish this whole shot was a little bit warmer. Same thing here. We've got a nice like long focal length, and I kind of want to see more of that background because it looks like a spectacular scene. And a little bit more foreground too. This is nice with this brush in the foreground. So if you have the room to step back, which it looks like you did, I would step back a little bit. And then this one, I'm grouping these because it was kind of the same thing. This is cropped a little close to the edge. I don't have a problem with the crop, but yeah, I kind of want to be a little bit further away. And also, I think that there might have been a way, not that this car behind it is bothering me that much, but if we could eliminate it, it might be possible if you were super low. Maybe not, but I kind of wish we were a little bit further back, a little more zoomed in, a little bit more room on this side. And yeah, and when with a shot like this also, it can be helpful to kind of center the tire. The center is kind of this shell logo, which is fine with me. It's not really bothering me. But yeah, I don't know. When you have a crop, it's just kind of ask yourself, like, why are we cropping? Like, what are we looking at? What are we emphasizing? And if it is the shell, if it is like the deck lid, if it is the rear, this is the heart of the car, it's the 911s, this is where the engine is, you don't have to explain why you cropped on this. Have I said anything? I don't know. I like this shot. I think it's great. I love the like chain link fence bokeh artifacts, the colors, the wall. I think all of this is cool. And then here we've got a chimney, and I like that it's kind of at this angle. The ground is angled, doesn't bother me. This is clearly straight up and down. This is like, you can tell that this is, the natural landscape is straight up and down. I don't know. I think this is great. It is weird. Someone said in the last video, they commented on what this was called, and I think it was called a tangent, which is where there's like a line that continues accidentally. Like, I may not have even noticed it if I was in the scene, but this line going through here, it's a little odd. It's not distracting. Anyone else could look at the same photo and say it's thematic. This is intentional. This is continuing. This is doing the thing. It's like if you have horizontal stuff next to a Testarossa from the side, and it's like, look at the theme. Look at that. I can't argue with that. I think it's a little odd, but I like the shot. I also think it's weird that this mud flap is kind of like hitting the sun, so this red is super bright. But yeah, no complaints. Neat shot, neat scene, great set. Thank you, Thomas. Matt Wetherill. And Matt sent a couple car show shots, and I kind of went through and narrowed it down a little bit. This is a badge. It's a little blown out. Like, this is a little overexposed, the whole shot. I would want to underexpose. You're generally safer off underexposing. You can always brighten it later, but if you blow it out, you might not be able to get it back if you try to edit it. This one I'm including just because the steering wheel is not straight, which it would probably be rude to lean into someone else's vintage Ferrari and turn the wheel. But in that case, I don't know what lens you had. All of these are pretty wide angle. If you had a zoom, it would be cool to, like, you know, if you just kind of like cropped on that, emphasis on that, kind of had like some blur from this window, that would be a neat, a nice shot. there's something you can do with it. I like peeking into this window. I don't like that it is so overexposed again. And in the interior, there's a lot of blue. I know this is a black interior. You're going to tell me it was actually blue, but I'm pretty sure this is a black interior. So if I were doing this, I would warm up the whole shot. I would underexpose or polarize to get rid of some of these reflections. And, you know, it can be as simple as going in and taking saturation out of the blue layers and the cyan layers, and you can kill some of that blue. So this is one where a polarizer would help. I'm not going to repeat the same thing a bunch of times, but a polarizer would possibly help, but also we're shooting kind of right into the sun. So there's some angles where it doesn't help. This one, this one, this one, these all feel very like snapshotty to me. Like it was just kind of casual point and shoot. So if you've seen my videos about car events, if I step back, there's gonna be people in the way, or I can't reposition the cars, or I can't do this. And that's when you find like cool details to shoot. That's when you kind of find juxtapositions or whatever. So these are fine as mementos of the event, but I don't know if they're like, you know, photos. Like, I don't know, that sounds so harsh. These are fine as just memories of the event, like documenting the cars you saw at the event, but you know, maybe work a little more on finding an interesting perspective or angle or something that makes this like an interesting photo. And I did say find cool details. This is a cool detail, this like crusty CUDA badge. I love the long shadow on it. And then this one, I'm ending on a strong note. I love this beetle reflected in the thing. This is like a cool, like I said, like a juxtaposition. This is more successful than the other interior shot, not just because of the steering wheel position, but it's just, there's more going on. I like how you've included the window frame as a framing element, literal framing element. And I like this reflection of this beetle here. So keep it up, Matt. Thank you for sending these in. Who do we have next? We got Tim Chao. Tim sent a couple photos, a couple more, and I narrowed it down to this scene. We've got an M5 by some train tracks. And what do we think? I think this is a cool edit. I love this flare. I would like to see a little more contrast here. We've got this kind of like sepia edit. I would maybe want even more, not more warmth, but kind of more orange, like saturation. It's kind of sepia, but also muted. And our blacks are very not black. There's some cool like sun really shining through there. I'm wishing that we were a little further back. I wish we had a little more space around the car on this side. I like this as a background. I like this as a scene. The car is pretty much on level ground, which is nice. It looks like the sun is coming from here, giving us a cool flare. Yeah, maybe a little more contrast, but really just kind of the framing is what I would like to see a little bit different. Again, the same thing here. I'm not saying everything has to be centered. I'm just saying if you have the room, you know, if you have the space, allow the car some breathing room. I maybe would want to get a little lower to kind of break up the roof line hitting this line on the train. Yeah, I'm still looking for like something that's going to give us like a real like punch. This gradient on this deck lid is so nice. We've got this beautiful highlight. This reflection is not so good. So if we maybe got really close and we had say a 70 to 200 and kind of really got low and shot, kind of emphasizing the badges and this surface and getting some taillights, getting this, and then if we're looking up and getting some train car in the background, you know, kind of fuzzy, I think that would be a really, really strong shot. It's a cool scene. You had a great idea with the scene. You've got the basics. I'm just thinking like what would kind of push this to the next level. And then here, Again, I kind of want more ground below the car. It's like I've said with a crop, like what are we emphasizing? It's a beautiful wheel. I just want a little bit more space below it. And the same thing here. I don't know what we're focusing on because the center of the frame is kind of this gas cap. Are we emphasizing the wheel? In that case, it's a little underexposed. Are we emphasizing here? I mean, you could probably take this and just crop here and kind of center up this M5 badge, and that would be an interesting shot. I kind of wish this pole was even more like out of focus. It's complicated. These are fine shots, and I like the edit. I love the car. I like the scene. I'm just trying to think of ways like what I would do to kind of fine tune. But just think about your framing. Just try some different framing things. So thank you so much for sending those in, Tim. All right, Florian Reinhard sent these. These are really pretty shots. I think this is I'm always trying to identify the car that I don't know. Is this a Fiesta ST that we don't get in the United States? I think it is, because it's not an SUV as far as I know. I'm not gonna complain. You can't close down the streets, so it is fine that there's other cars here. They're not distracting to me. These are really nice, just beautiful colors, great exposure, a really fantastic scene. I like how everything is colorful except the car, which is flat gray. It's funny. And the pretty well color balanced between them. This one's a little bluer, this one's a little warmer, this one's a little bit magenta. We've also got pink flowers reflected in it, so it is fine. I love the shallow depth of field. Yeah, I love this one, how the car is centered in the road. Beautiful trees overhead. Great scene. Here we've got this tree in the foreground, more foreground interest. Just a very lush scene, very vibrant. Here, I think maybe if you got lower, you could block out the cars behind it. Just as something to try. Maybe you tried it, maybe it didn't work. I don't know. Something to think about. You've got a 1 star on this. I don't know. On my rating system, 1 star is what I throw away. Maybe yours is different, because, and I would not throw this away, to completely be clear. I didn't even notice, like, the nice thing about shooting in the center of the road is that the verticals are all vertical, whereas here I didn't even really notice that the scene was kind of askew because we're leveling the car. So that's just a factor of the crown of the road. Even the road is lush and pretty with the cobblestones. Yeah, I don't know. Like, just keep doing this. This is cool. And then this shot, another vertical. I don't really like having this like lined up, almost centered with the car. I kind of wish that it was off to the side. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot of notes for this. It doesn't have quite the punch that the other shots have. Thank you so much for sending those in. All right, Sebastian. Here we've got an Aston Martin. I really enjoy this, this chain, this stuff, all this foreground interest is cool framing. Like, we've got, the car has a lot of room around it in the scene, but it also doesn't have, it is like kind of constricted into this little negative space, which works really well. I think it's neat. There's a lushness. I'm saying lush now. There is interest at all levels of foreground and subject, background, everything. I think it really works. The exposure on the car is perfect. I don't know if this sun is real, but we'll get to that. But yeah, very, very cool, nicely done. We've got, like, there's stuff behind the car, and because it is like out of focus, because we've got shallow depth of field, not bothering me. Also, you've got the lights are on. Now that I've zoomed, I can see this like color fringing, the magenta, but it's not noticeable unless you're looking at it at 1,000,000%. I'm not gonna criticize the car for being ugly. I like the colors. This looks like an antenna on the car. So I've been trying not to harp on like vertical poles and stuff behind the subject, but this would be an easy fix, unless that is a green antenna on this car. I don't know anything about this BMW. Good colors, good sky, nice shot, nice time of day. Let's jump to this one. We've got another BMW with objectionable styling and another vertical pole coming out of here. And I don't know what you would do about that besides moving. If the sun is real, the shadow makes sense. So kudos. I don't know what I would do about the pole. If you were lower perspective, it would still be a pole there. It would be, you wouldn't have this part, but you would have this part. Maybe even shallower depth of field would help. It's a very magenta color edit. It doesn't bother me. It just is, hopefully it was a choice. And yeah, I mean, I like this flare causing some kind of cool foreground stuff. Great road too. The perspective you've chosen worked well because this road is so interesting. So, and your verticals are straight. Like technically, like this is great. Maybe I would like it to be a little more contrasty, a little bit darker blacks, but yeah, thank you. This one, this is my least favorite. If we compare it to the Aston, it's like this is a rich scene. We've got stuff at every level. We've got a cool perspective. We've got this questionable sun, and it totally works for me. This one, we've got another questionable sun. I don't think this shadow. I don't think that this sun exists in a reality with this shadow, but maybe I'm wrong. But this kind of is like average photo of a cool car. Am I being like really mean? Whether or not you think it's a cool car, I don't know. It's better than the BMWs, but like I always want the photo to be cool, not because of the car. And I think that the worst thing I see photographers do is like, well, this is a great photo because it's a great car, and I captured a Pagani, and it's like, okay, but if that was any other car, like, would this be interesting? And I'm just wondering about this because this is kind of a high perspective. Like, it just looks very casual. And it is a beautiful background, but there's just something very ordinary about this, especially with the kind of thought and how deliberate these other shots are. So this one just seems like, I didn't have to put in the work. I didn't try to do anything interesting because the car makes it interesting. And I'm speaking for just other photos I see. I'm not meaning to criticize you directly, and I'm not saying I'm getting into your mindset or accusing them. I'm just as a broader lesson, I just want you to always try to make it an interesting shot, an interesting composition, do something unexpected or interesting, and not just rely on, well, it's an expensive car, and that's why it's a photo. So, didn't mean to go so harsh on you, Sebastian. You did great work. Please keep it up, and yeah, thank you so much for sending those in. Benjamin King typed in all caps, but his photo not all caps. So sent a couple. This one, we're just too close. It's a cloudy day. Like, when I talk about the visual punch, this is like an example of like it's not there. And that sounds so mean, and I'm so sorry. And it's not you. It's just, if I were in this scene, it's a gray day, it's a parking lot full of cars, what can you do to break that up? I don't like shooting on a gray day, but if I have to, I'm going to try to find some weird perspective or some weird thing or whatever to emphasize. We're too close to the edges all around, but then if we had more space around it, we'd see more cars in the parking lot. So maybe there's a crop where you can emphasize some detail on a car and not have those other things pop up as distractions in your image. Maybe there's like a high perspective thing you can do looking down. I mean, the Mini is a very small car, so I do appreciate that you got low and that there's kind of like a look how big I made this little car. There's something there, but the Mini is a tiny car. You could get kind of above it and shoot something down. I really like this moss texture, so maybe there's something there with that. But I think this would be a scenario where there's like an interesting crop possibility, and I'm just, you know, like this is. There's just more that could be done. And again, I'm not dunking on you, Benjamin King, specifically. I'm just trying to, as a broader guide, give you like, not, oh, here's what I would have done, but I'm saying as a broader guide, just always be thinking of like, what can I do to bring some interest to this? And the more techniques, the more you experiment, the more you learn, then that's where you can go in a situation where it's like a gray day and a full car park, and you can say, well, I know this weird thing I can do to extract something interesting from this scene. So thank you, and sorry. Here, I don't know what we're emphasizing. It's like we're kind of on this bolster. I just kind of want to see something as like a clear focal point. I love the red interior, and I like this visual interest of reflection. It might be the same Mini. Maybe I'm just against this Mini. We got another steering wheel, wonky, but I do like the framing. I like the framing. Here, I like the sky, but these cars are just so close together. It is kind of, it's a little muddy. And this reflection is just not great. If you took out that, I don't even mind this stuff. But that, it could help. I'm getting the sense that you just kind of like desaturated the gray and black and took out like whatever colors were reflecting in it. You know, you've got these greens, we've got these weird colors in the sky, which also looks like there was some stuff happening with their saturation. But there might have been some other colors in this, and I feel like they were kind of zapped out in the edit, and maybe I'm wrong. And then this one, I like this shot. I really like that we've got the car in the horizon. I like that the taillights are on. If you underexposed it more and kind of had more like color in the sky, and you kind of had just this sort of silhouette with the taillights lit up, I think that could be really cool, but I have no problems with what you did here. Great scene, great sky, and a dramatic perspective, and totally level horizon. But I'm always a sucker for like a car that is like, there's nothing on the horizon except the car. Like that's one of my favorite things we talked about earlier, and I don't get to do that very often, so it's always cool to see that. So thank you so much, Benjamin. Again, I didn't mean to go off on you. I'm trying to impart something. All right, Alexander Taylor. I feel like last time it was all vertical pulls and CPL filters, and this time it's all chromatic aberrations and like what are you cropping on. So here we've got McLaren. I won't talk about styling again, but we've got some like real chromatic aberrations here. That happens when you kind of overexpose or when the lens kind of maxes out. Someone's gonna tell me, but when the lens is kind of like at its limit, maybe if it's a low quality lens or if it's too bright for the lens, a quick and dirty way to kill that is just go in saturation and say all the magenta, take it out, all the purple, take it out. Just bring it to zero, and no one would know. I wouldn't know. But it's here. I would like to see a little more area around the car. Again, this would be stronger as a horizontal, but that wasn't in the guidelines when you sent this in, so that's not on you. Yeah. And then this is a neat shot. As a crop, I like the crop. I like that the focal point is clearly like this rear fender. So I just want a little more color, or I want a little darker shadows. I want a little more contrast, but it's a cool time of day. I would underexpose a little bit, especially since we're kind of getting a blowout on this roof. But it's close. Your head was in the right place. Yeah, again, I like dramatic light. I would probably have focused on the badge because as a focal point. Maybe, I don't think you did. No, I don't think you did. Yeah, I would even underexpose it more. I would focus on that or focus on this. But I guess the sharpest thing is the headlight is sharp, but it doesn't seem like an obvious focal point since it is off on the edge and it's also not in the highlight. This is cool. I love this kind of stuff. Rusty car, lots of patina, vegetation. It's great. This is cool. Yeah, I don't really know what to say except I don't like all this stuff in the background, so I need to do something where I can like crop. Oops. I'm not doing this for everyone. Is this better? So whenever you have words like this, your eye is going to read to it. So whatever you want to be the focal point, this is probably going to be the focal point because people are going to read words if it is so upfront like this. So I don't know. Maybe that's a little better. And then this one, yeah, I don't know. I'm contradicting everything I said before. I like that we have this extra area. I don't think your perspective is quite right. I think I kind of want to be a little more to the right. Still have this area, but I feel like we're kind of looking slightly to the right, so I kind of want to be standing to the right, looking straight on. It's a neat detail on the car. I don't mind that there is so much like in the background. I like that, but I still kind of wish this was like a little more central if these taillights are our focal point. Thank you, Alexander. Sven Meschner clearly knows what he's doing. This is a beautiful color, cool scene. You probably had to get permission to shoot here. I like it. So it's interesting is that someone contacted me and they asked about this kind of stuff, which is like a weird, someone might correct me, but it's almost like a weird artifact in the glass, in the layers of the glass, like this sort of stuff. Usually it shows up for me in like a rear window, like in a back window on a car when I'm shooting from above for an auction or something. I don't usually see it in a side window. So I mentioned that just because it is a little weird. But when someone brought it up to me and they said, what do you do to kill that? And I'm like, I don't sit there and take 10 shots with a polarizer, rotating it and getting it go away. I don't care. I don't see it as a defect. But it was interesting that someone brought it up to me as a defect. And how can I fix it? Because I was like, I don't care. But whatever your polarizer was at here was right, because I think the light on the side, the highlights, this was the most important thing. So beautiful color, beautifully captured. I don't mind this vertical in the background just because it is such a striking thing, and it's not like in the center of the car. If it was kind of like wearing a hat right in the center, it would bug me. But because it's off center, because we can even see it through here, I like it. I like that the wheels are dirty. I kind of wish the car was more level or the photo was tilted a little bit. I think you could maybe get away with rotating it a couple degrees left, like 2, and it might still look up and down if this is level. I'm not sure it is. Maybe the whole scene needs to rotate like 2 degrees to the left, but it's a great shot, great color at it. We've got nice sky, cool background, and interesting foreground. So, and enough space around the car. Here we've got a Huracan. At first I was like, this is great. What I don't kind of like is that there's just no sense of speed or motion at all. And with a shot like this, I want it to look like we're moving, especially when we can see the car that we're shooting from, which I like, but I wish that we could really see some action here. And then also, polarizer might do something about that windshield. And then here we've got a Lamborghini with a beautiful sunset in the mountains. Yeah, great colors, nice shot. Looks to be perfectly centered. Like, I think you achieved exactly what you're going for, and very well done.